And we're live. That took a little while longer than
I know. I was like, okay.
Hey, what is going on, everybody? It is your girl, Martha D. Stubb, owner of MDMC Entertainment.
And I'm Mark Schroeder, the other half of the MDMC Southwest. Say that 10 times fast.
You manage all the Southwest area.
Yeah. How you doing?
How you doing? Those are my New York boys. Well, you're from Boston, so you're an East Coast dude. So
yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna share to all of our pages while you talk about being from Boston.
That could be a good thing and a bad thing.
How long did you live out there for?
I lived out there for the first 7.5 years of my life.
Aww.
I moved here to New Mexico in 1987.
I was born in 1986.
Yeah, I was like 7.5.
Wow.
And when I moved here, I had a kind of a smaller upbringing in Boston, but I really didn't come into my own until I got out here. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's kind of smaller.
Sorry.
There was just, there are opportunities that I had here as I got on later in life that I don't think I ever would have had if I had continued to live back east.
Really?
Yeah. Basically, who knows what field I would have gone into? You know,
really?
I mean, the general consensus for someone who was born there is basically, you grow up, you go to Needham High School, which is a town outside of Boston they lived in, and then you go to UMass Amherst, and then you go from there. However, that was one part of what my family thought.
Right.
The other part of my family all went to Penn, yeah, that's another story altogether.
Wow. Okay. Do you go back often though, pre-COVID?
Pre-COVID, the last time I was back there was 2007 or 8.
I was watching the practice in Boston Legal, and now I'm convinced I have to go to Boston. I need to go see Boylston Street and
yes, you do.
All that stuff.
Boylston Street, see where Cheers actually is. If you go into Cheers, though, it's going to be a letdown.
Yeah.
But most of the stuff that they filmed out front, like there was one episode where George Wendt's character and John Ratzenberger's character kept setting off Kelsey Grammer's car alarm.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was filmed on the street right in front of it.
Right. I remember towards the end, because I actually went and did a binge watch on that. I think last year, because I was like, Cheers was just one of those shows you just never watched it through its entirety. You picked up bits and pieces growing up. And I remember that. I was like, whoa, they're actually in Boston filming. That's crazy.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, my dad's big thing was watching MASH. But
take the 5-hour drive with me and Eddie. Could you imagine us doing a tour in Boston with you two? Oh my God, that'd be insane. Eddie, if anyone knows, that's Lewis. He's from our East Coast section of MDMC.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, I love those guys. I think it's crazy because, I've known Lewis and Eddie since 2016. Same with the Facts of Life founder, Alex Acevedo, who is on the interview that we just posted on Tuesday. I've known all three of those guys. Watch the New York tour. You'll understand why I love them all because they're hilarious. Like
Alex's opening line in there is enough said.
Well, it's funny because there's another part where Eddie was coming out of the car, and I was very tempted to put it in, but for the sake of YouTube, he comes out of the car and he yells, "My dick!" And I was like, "Oh my god," because he had been in the car for so long. And when I ran through and did the edit, I told Alex that I put that part in first, and he was like, "You should have put the part in where Eddie's getting out of the car." I said, "I'd love to. Like, I want to do like a B-roll of just the bloopers. I kind of want to do that. I'm not gonna lie." But yeah, he had said you should have put Eddie in first. That would have been funny. But no, it's true. You know, Eddie was busy doing stuff. He's an entrepreneur himself, working, and he was just smack dab in the middle of things, but didn't want to miss out on the tour. So he went, but was doing business at the same time. So, Alex chipped in and did that video. Those 2 videos right now, they're doing fantastic on YouTube. Shout out to the East Coast crew.
Yes, they did. Right. Good segue.
It's my biggest cup, though. I got this on my first trip out there. Yeah, after Rhode Island Comic Con is when I got it. I went and totally did the touristy thing.
Yeah, and that's one thing I'd love to do.
But you lived near Boston for so long. How did you not go down to New York often? Like Lewis says, it takes 5 hours. How did you not go down to New York?
Oh, that's a long story that I don't even think we have time for. Okay, I mean, logically, yes, you're absolutely correct. I would have, gone down to New York, and I mean, it was easy. I mean, drive down there or an easy Amtrak ride. I mean, good Lord.
Yeah. No, I love that. I feel like every time I fly in, really, Mark, who the fuck's calling you?
I don't know.
Do you need to answer it?
No.
Okay. I could totally continue talking about myself about New York because I love it. No, every time I fly in, I feel like I don't know. I think because I stay with Eddie every time I go through.
Right.
And I don't know. It just feels like I'm coming home. Like, it just feels like it's weird. Maybe that's not even but it just feels like home to me. So every time I land, I'm like, oh, I'm so happy to be back. And, I don't know. I have this kindred spirit fondness towards the city. And I think the boys feel the same way, because when they come out to California, they're like, we're going home for the week. And I'm like, you don't live here. We've all played with the idea of just having Lewis and Eddie move in with me. And we just,
Oh yeah, that'd be the odd couple.
It's funny though, because the last time they usually come through for PMC, and we're constantly burning each other, with just awful jokes and stuff. Like, that's just we were just talking about. I was talking to Alex about our trip to San Fran. He wasn't here for that. He had come to California previously, but not for the San Francisco trip. Literally, I'm driving. We're talking about how bad a driver Lewis is, because we've all had near-death experiences with Lewis in the car. And
you haven't driven with me yet.
Well, no, I think Lewis will take the cake. But literally, I'm driving. I just passed Santa Barbara, going up. We had just gotten past the Ocean View and then going inland up to San Fran. Gotcha. And I'm over here yawning. I had a rough day the day before. I went to work and everything, and I'm just yawning. And all of a sudden, Lewis just goes and smacks I was like, what the hell? And he's like, stop yawning, wake up. And I was like, are you serious right now? You just smacked me. I was pissed. And then I was like, all right, fine, you drive. And
that would be what we would call workplace violence.
I was like, oh man. I'm just like, it's all crazy, but we had a great time going up there. I can't wait for them to come back.
Yeah, I mean, that would be right now, post-COVID, if we ended up driving, I'd end up driving out there. I wouldn't fly it.
I'm thinking, PMC, PowerMorphCon 2021, and that's right smack dab in the middle of Eddie's birthday. Mm-hmm. And, Lewis and I have been talking about just having this big party. We're all going to have cakes. We're going to make up for this year, because this year sucked. We just had Jared's birthday just came and went, and it sucked because I was like, what did we end up doing? Oh, I went to BJ's so we went to Frank's. I hate going into Frank's. I've been spending $200 every time I go in there. And we came out and I was like, well, let's see if BJ's is open. And I'm actually going to do a segment on that on Instagram. They actually rented a huge party tent and they had like this faux grass in the parking lot. And they had this picket fence type thing. And they set up their tables outside. What everyone should be doing in the restaurant industry if COVID has affected you, because the inside was completely shut down, but they made this really nice outdoor space. I took pictures and everything. I need to post it.
You should, definitely. Yeah. And we should be sharing it around here.
Yeah. And down the street, I live smack dab in the middle of San Marcos. That's in northern San Diego.
Right.
There's a place that I used to go called Broken Yoke. And I went and got gas to go to LA. And I passed by it, and same thing. They set up tents. I was like, oh, I need to come back here and take pictures. So, and I know people are like, well, it's California, New Mexico's hot. Look, when I was sitting at the BJ's on Saturday mid-afternoon, like it was like 5, 6 o'clock, it was like still 80 degrees.
Right.
I was fine. No big
deal. I've golfed in Phoenix in 120 degree weather. That's nothing.
I played around with the idea of moving to Phoenix. No, I can't. I don't know what it is about Phoenix, but it's just way hotter there than anywhere else around it.
I would rather be in Phoenix from February to November.
February to November, that's a good chunk of the year.
Yeah, because basically spring training, you have the Diamondbacks.
No, that's true. Everyone's spring trains out there.
You have fall ball.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fall ball championships in early November.
Okay, well,
that would be one of the things I would definitely do. But let's get on topic for today.
Definitely go check out the development's videos. Okay, now go ahead.
Now, so when do you know you need help? And I'm not talking mentally.
Me personally, I think, as of right now, my workload is massive. I've played around with the idea. Well, not played around. This was actually a thought because we were pitching something this week. I was going to throw it to you and just pay you a portion of that. I think when it becomes when your workload just becomes too full and we were just talking about this before we got on, we're doing a lot of amazing things that we kind of need help with our personal social media because we don't have time. We have clients that pay us a lot of money to do what we need to do to make them successful.
Correct.
And, those people need our time. And so I don't have time to keep doing what I do on Fridays and Sundays to help grow stuff.
And obviously I do it as literally as much as I can on there. I've done it on IG. I've done it on Twitter for a little bit. Basically, let's see whether my goal is to let's see where the numbers go. And the thing is that we want people to be able to come to us and say, hey, we need help with X. Can you do that? And the thing is that, we have heavy workloads, but the thing is that once and it's not just the right client. We're not going to just go out of our way to go get a client.
No.
We want to make sure that the working relationship's going to be there. And that's another video altogether. But moving on, when to get...
You know how hard it was for me to not send an email yesterday to everybody about how unprofessional they were? Just saying. That's a whole other video.
We'll save that for the cutting room floor.
If you saw my IG stories on the MDMC account, you know what I'm talking about.
I did.
I'm surprised I didn't get scolded by you.
I cannot control you. I can only try to contain you.
I am not containing. So, you obviously are a veteran entrepreneur. When you had Schroeder Creative Services, you started out by yourself. When did it come to that point when you said, all right, I need to was it just the overflow of work, or what was your process for that?
Well, there were several things. One, I had gotten married in December of 2010.
Mm-hmm.
The business started to pick up literally right after that. And lo and behold, we find, we're expecting our first child.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an influence. The other parts that were influences were, which I've learned, there are things that I've learned from that experience that I wouldn't do now.
Mm-hmm.
I would value my mental health, and mainly because I drove myself silly trying to build that business. Mm-hmm. Kind of like what you're doing now.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because I put together like our MDMC roster. I don't make that public to people because I don't want to get poached. So I don't obviously tell you a lot of the people I work with. Our workload is massive, but I don't like to talk about, like, I'll show bits and pieces of things we're working on, but I don't want to give you my entire roster. Be like, boom, this is who I'm working with, because I think working with agents, I've seen how their stuff has gotten poached.
Exactly.
And like, no, I'm not even going to tell you who I'm working with. So I leave a lot of that, private. I know there's people that I still talk to this day that know I'm an entrepreneur, that know I'm in business for myself, but they don't know who I'm working for. And I like that. I like that mystery, because if you know my work and you've seen it, you'll know it's me. There's just there's a finesse to what I do. And I think kind of like what I put together the other day is, there's a branding aspect that I love to do with companies. And if you look at my stuff, like, I think you can kind of pick up on my style. You'll know I did it. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I've looked at your style, more times than I care to count. And I'm obviously, really where you're approaching it from. And that's why you and I work as well as we do together, is basically, if I'm not thinking it, you are. And if I'm thinking it, you may not be.
Yeah.
Where you're basically saying, it's like, no, let's not do it that way. We're doing it this way because ...
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing, is that when you realize that you're overloaded, that's when it's too late.
Yeah. I mean, I those New York videos, let me tell you, the tour took over 10 hours to edit. And I was right smack in the middle of a very large project for a client. Right. And I'm like, Lewis, I can't do this right now. I need to get this part done. And he's like, cool. Well, so that's one of the reasons why we delayed it quite a bit, because of my workload.
Right.
And essentially, you don't want to delay things, but at the same time, if it's just you, and like, I know at one point, because I uploaded the wrong version of that video because I didn't know the Dropbox, there was a miscommunication within the Dropbox, even though Lewis had access to it, all the files weren't falling in. And so when I uploaded it like a week before the real one, it was like, whoa, there's shit missing. And it's like, oh, well, and he was like, oh, I'll edit it. And I was like, all right, but if you edit it, you need to, and I'm like very particular, because at the end of the day, this is still my company. And the way that I want this branded is very specific. So I'm like, the intro has to be there and the end part has to be there if you're going to redo the entire thing. And then he's like, oh no, a good chunk of it's done. Just add the rest in. So I don't know. I feel like I would appreciate any help that came my way. I would.
Obviously, with school starting back up again, we're expecting, colleges looking for internships. Even fall internships. And, we might, in order, I know who you need to make that call to.
Yeah.
But
see if I can get cookies out of it too.
Dude, If you get cookies out of it, I'd be pissed.
You know what? I never got cookies. Jared did. Jared was deployed.
I never got cookies either.
I think he was in Afghanistan or Iraq. I can't remember which tour it was. I think it was Iraq. And no, Iraq was during the time I was there. Okay, Afghanistan. So he got cookies in Afghanistan. He's here. I don't know how they tasted, but he said they were great, and he shared with the rest of the guys. It was great. And I'm like, you got Dr. Dobson's cookies, like.
Well, let's explain Dr. Dobson. Basically, she is just not a department chair extraordinaire at Eastern New Mexico University. She is Martha Stewart reincarnated.
Yes, we gotta buy her book. She's got a book out. We should have Patty on.
Dude. Yeah, she's got a book.
She's got a book. People push. We'll talk about our future shows here soon. That's a good idea. Let me put on the list.
Yeah, definitely.
Continue about Patty.
But she is a very unique individual. She actually, when you look at someone who genuinely cares about what she does for a living, you see it. And she knows that, I mean, one of the many things that there were times I had her and I was smarting off, and she'd be like, she'd look at Aaron Griffith and be like, hit him. And
you and Aaron were like tied to the waist there for like, you guys were going to the hip for a while. Like, you guys were always together. You guys were like a cute little friendship. I was like, what the hell?
Well, no, the thing is that, she's married now, living off in good old Washington, good old Washington, D.C.
I love D.C. I need to go back. I just want to travel.
Oh, dude, I do too.
But Patty, oh, sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, we need to get her in. But more,
Patty was just one of those amazing teachers. She just
agreed. And the thing is that she grooms her students, and this is why we want her interns. Want her students as interns is because she grooms them. And if the ones that she doesn't groom don't do well, it gets back to her. And oh yes, that hammer drops.
The thing with Patty, though, is I remember my first semester with her at ENMU. I had her for like 4 different classes. I'm like, why is she? And I'm like, man, I remember looking at the schedule. I was like, she better be good because this is going to be annoying if I have to see the teacher. And that's just from a perspective of just, not meeting her. And I'm like, when I had her, I was like, you need to be my teacher for everything. Like, teach all of my stuff to me. Teach me everything you know. And then, I would have breaks in there. But, I think it was great because I think at ENMU, we had such a great, all but one. There was one rotten apple in that batch, but all of those teachers were amazing.
Who will go? Actually, no, there was 2 rotten apples in that batch. We won't go there.
Oh, okay. Well, I only know of the one, but
one for certain. I'll share the other one later.
Yeah, we'll do it off air. But like Dr. Ricky, I know she came in after you left.
Oh yeah,
she was great. I loved her too. I was like, man, I could. She was young like us. She had just gotten her doctorate. I was like, man, I want to be a doctor, just like Dr. Ricky. And I don't know if I'll ever do that, but
no, don't do it.
I think I just wanted, just to the sake to be like, I'm Dr. Martha, doctor. Put on my checks.
Dr. Martha, pile higher and deeper.
That's what she said. Anyway, let's get back to the help.
But yeah, when you need help, when you realize that, most of your, you have clients that maybe calls are going unanswered. You're missing a project deadline, but you need to realize that, you are only one freaking person.
I'm starting to see, I procrastinate a lot on returning emails. I've actually had a colleague of mine tell me. He's like, yo, you need to be better at that. I was like, I answered. Because like there's some cases where I don't answer and I'm like, I'll get back to it. And then I get
agree.
a call like, you didn't answer it. I was like, I answered it in my head. I was like, oh
yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, let me go back and answer that. Just because, I myself am working with another team. So sometimes I allocate things to a team to get done. That's not paid by me, paid by somebody else. And so I'm talking to these guys about what needs to be done. And then they'll send me emails about other things. And I'm like, I don't know. And then I expect someone else to, because it's a weird working relationship with them, but I expect someone else to pick it up if I don't know the answer. And then they're like, yo, you didn't answer. I was like, well, I don't know the answer. That's why I didn't answer. But yeah, I've started to see, and I don't know whether it's just a personal trait or a Gemini trait or whatever, but I'm just like, I read it and I'm like, I'll get back to you. And I'm just like, whatever. And, I don't know. It's just weird. I just need to get better at it. I procrastinate a lot. I leave everything to the final hour. Kind of like this.
But the thing is that they usually, like with me, I used to be able to do stuff in like the final, on the buzzer.
No, that's beyond
time. I'm not like that anymore. As much as I would love to be, I can't. There's just no way.
I still do that. I think that's one of the reasons why I stay up so late. Just like the other day, I stayed up all night doing something for the final hour, and it didn't even matter. But still, I wait, and I think I knew why I did that because I didn't want to do it. But
no, trust me. I'm lying in bed and I have headphones in, and I'll hear bing, bing, and it's you at 2:00 in the morning on posted on Facebook or on Instagram more.
Sorry.
Actually. I think it's funny. I just was like, I know that's not the software doing that right now.
Yeah, no, it depends. Because sometimes I'll link the software through to do announcements or something. But, I think I had to catch up on the 1DR Productions casting calls. So I had to make sure that went through because I was behind. I was too busy promoting the development on the IG. And then I have a specific way of the design that goes through on it. So I was like, you can't really just post a post. You have to make sure your design is fluid because I'm still on that. I might change my mind. I've changed that IG account various times, but we'll see.
And you're right. And that's the biggest thing is that, you know what your limits are. One of the things I admire about you is what your limits are. Where you're sitting there tapping out at me going, I can't do it anymore. I'm doing this, and this.
I've literally had a meltdown at one point, and I'm just like, fuck this.
Well, and that's true.
I'm sorry.
But, you end up having it's detrimental to your business. If you let that meltdown go too far.
Oh, for sure. You can go crazy like me and take it out on somebody else in a heartbeat. And I think that's and again, I'm a newbie to being an entrepreneur. I started my business. I started MDC as a side hustle. It didn't go official until October of 2019. Mark has done this with his eyes shut for years. So,
Actually, yeah, I have done it with my eyes shut.
And he's just been an asset to tell me, hey, this, and this. And, I've also had other people, mostly, who's been an ironic, and I've talked about this on the Morphin Network, but, Justin Nemo, it was the Silver in Space Ranger. He owns several businesses right now. And I remember around Christmas time, I was going shopping for gifts, and I stopped in the parking lot because I got a call from him. And so usually when he calls, and it's not because I'm somewhat in love with the man, because he was my teenage crush. I'll stop anything for Justin Nemo. But he calls and we start talking business, and it's just weird because we have a really cool friendship, and
exactly.
And he has become a person that when something is not right or something feels off, or in business or things like that, I'll call him. I'm like, hey, have you ever encountered this? And he's like, oh yeah, here's what you do. And I'm like, great. And so, you know, we've had those in-depth conversations where he's just been a complete mentor to me. And I just am fortunate. I love that man. I'll do anything for that.
Hey, good people.
He's really great.
That's what you got to have around you, especially if you're at that point where when to ask for help, you have to have a good support system, especially in business.
And the thing is that business owners have egos and they don't want to stop and ask for help.
That's true.
You can go into that. I think you know some stuff on that.
Yeah, I'll admit that.
Not you having an ego, but other people that you've worked with that have egos.
I've met. There are people I've had the opportunity to work with, or have gotten to at least be acquainted with, that have egos the size of Mack trucks. I mean, it's like, I'm the all almighty, blah 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 blah. You know, whatever it may be, and I'm kind of going like, no, you're not. I know what you do in your off hours.
Yeah.
I mean, and the thing is that that's another thing too, is that when you know what you know, especially in our business, information is priceless.
Oh yeah.
Into any little intel you can dig up that I mean, within ethical bounds, of course, and we want to stress that. But the other thing would have to be is that as long as you know yourself, you have your solid support system around you. That's part of the reason why I want to send my wife back to school for a digital marketing certificate.
Hell yeah. I mean, I'm trying to send Jared to go get, we need an SEO department. And that's one of the things I've been really kind of more focused on lately. I mean, obviously not me personally. I would love to learn SEO. I've worked with amazing people. There's only one other SEO company I will recommend to anybody, and that's One Click Marketing. They used to be SEO One Click, but they do all things marketing. And Jordan, oh God, what's Jordan's last name? Jordan Parks. He is the owner of that company. Mm-hmm. And I met him in 2015. And literally, he's one of the best SEO guys on the planet. And the work they've done is just like, and it's funny because I've had other SEO people come at me and say these things. And I'm like, but Jordan has taught me enough to know what's the red flag and what isn't. And right. So, and I told Jordan at one point, I said, I want to learn what you do. And he was like, I'm going to teach you that. I'm like, this is not, no. And he was just, he was massively busy. He became a millionaire very quick because of how well his work was. And, right. And he said, F the US, he's living abroad in Europe. So I have his partner lives here in San Diego, and his business partner lives here in San Diego. And while he's traipsing around Europe, living the good life, I'm just like, dang, that's the dream. That's the dream.
Well, and that's the biggest thing you have to realize is that when you, there's the dream, and then there's the reality.
Yeah.
And the thing is that you can only sit there and go up to the top mm-hmm. for so long, because even people at the top are gonna fall.
Yeah, and that's when they fall because they're either stupid or they just don't want to ask for the help. I've seen so many people make that mistake.
I agree.
Where they're like, oh no, we're fine. We don't want to spend the money. And these are business owners that I've seen and I've personally worked for that, as a recommendation, hey, you need to add in this or you need to add in that. And they're like, no, we don't want to spend the money. And then something breaks halfway through and they're like, okay, we should probably spend the money. I'm like, no shit. you know, and I'm not just saying with like in the marketing sense, but I'm also saying like in like operations or sales, or, you know, there's aspects in a company, or when a company is doing very well and it comes to that point where the growth is massive and they want to hold on to the money they got in the growth, but they don't want to spend the money in the operations to make sure that growth continues to go seamless. So I've seen a lot of business owners say, I don't want to spend the money. I'd rather just keep my bottom line where my bottom line is. And then it hurts them. And that's actually, I've seen businesses unravel because of that.
That is also the truth. I mean, there have been businesses that I've seen that, you know, they would have hired somebody for a year, and then 6 months after they let that person go, you know, the ship sinks. And is it bad? Yeah. But the thing is that does it come back to ego? Yes, it does.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I figure if I get too much ego, the first person besides my wife that's going to slap me is you.
Well, and here's the thing is because I was working for an individual downtown, and, you know, this person couldn't hold on to a staff. And I was, you know, I found it odd because when I went in and did the interview, there was another girl in there. And then the day that I showed up to work, that girl bounced and didn't say anything and took off with the owner's laptop because she was furnishing laptops to everybody. And she took off with the laptop. And I was there when the owner was contacting her, and she was like, you know, I don't want this, you know, this passive aggressive stuff that you're doing here, and bring me back my laptop. And now she's talking to legal, and she, you know, she sent someone else to turn in her keys and her pass to get into the building to park, but the laptop didn't show up. And I'm sitting there watching this on my first day, and I'm like, wow, there's something wrong here. And I remember seeing old pictures where she had a team at one point. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, if you can't hold on to your team, there's an ego problem. And I knew that immediately. And it was one of those like, warning, but, you know, I was 233 days unemployed. I needed the money. So I kind of just shut up and dealt with it because I was like, there's nothing really I can do. I need the money. But I saw very quickly the cracks that business owners have. And I think what that person didn't like was that I could recognize it and I saw it, but I didn't say anything. You know, I was just like,
Well, and that's what a part of the reason why, you know, we do what we do is because I'm a big fan of a non-toxic culture, mm-hmm. where basically you can play on each other all day long.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to shooting that 3-point bucket from the 3-point line, you know, you're there to hit the shot, not there to hit, you know, go, oops.
Yeah. And I think for me, that experience, because, you know, I would go home and I'm like, okay. And I asked this person, I was bold enough to ask, I'm like, so I saw pictures in your Dropbox of your staff. Like, you had 5 employees. What happened? What'd you do? And I said it playfully, you know, so she would, you know, get comfortable and tell me. And she says, well, and I don't know whether this was true or not, but she said that a couple people went back to college. 2 other people just decided to move on and do other things. And I'm like, that doesn't necessarily happen. Like, unless the work environment, you don't have 5 employees 2 months ago and all of them are gone. Like, that's something true. Massive happened. And it's almost like looking at the remains of an earthquake or a hurricane, and you're just looking around at the debris like, something's not right. And I think that was a big red flag for me, just because I fancy myself as someone who's business savvy and someone who was given an opportunity to not only work in my marketing department, but also in operations, in sales. Like, I was never confined to one spot. I was given the keys to the kingdom, and I could easily look over everyone else and be a part of a company as a whole. So that was a great privilege for me because I learned a lot. And I know a lot more about operations. A lot of people don't think, and maybe I don't express that enough, but I do know a good chunk of how businesses work that way because of that time there. And
exactly.
And when it comes to ego, business owners are the worst. And they will sit there and they will defy the fact that they need to spend money to help in a certain aspect of their business, and they refuse to get the help. And at the end of the day, it hurts them. And
well, another group I would say would be athletes. Those who try to extend those who try to extend their careers too long, like Darryl Strawberry, and just to name one.
Tom Brady.
That's true. As he's now in Tampa.
Tampa of all places. I don't get that.
Well, it kind, what it kind of reminded me of? It reminded me of when Joe Montana ended up leaving the Niners and going to the Chiefs. That's what that reminded me of, because he spent a couple of years with the Chiefs and then he retired.
But if you're going to retire big, retire in the top. He should have just retired and left at the Patriots and just left it as it is. Why go down to another team? Like, okay, the only person that has successfully done that, and I'm a Denver Bronco fan, and that was Peyton Manning. Okay, he was at the Colts for such a long time. I admired him. I loved what he brought to the Colts.
He's got a bigger head than me.
And he ended up going to Denver successfully, winning us the Super Bowl ring, and I think he retired, right? I don't know. I don't keep up with football anymore.
No, that's right. I mean, and then he went on to other businesses, Papa John's.
Papa John's.
Yeah.
See, I got my master's in sports administration and public relations because I wanted to learn sports marketing. So that's how I know that. Mm-hmm. I used to be a really big sports head at one point. I used to know everything about everything.
Well, I'm kind of like the people. I'm that person that people call when they have a baseball question. Mm-hmm. And I'll sit there, and a friend of mine will be like, "Hey, you got a minute?" I'm like, "What?" And he'll ask me the question, and then he'll be like, "All right, cool, thanks." And then as I hear him hanging up the phone, going, "See, I was right."
Yeah.
But and the thing is that you have to be able to sit there. It's kind of like when you're drinking. Know when to say when. Okay. The thing is that when you run a business, it's like you're drinking from that wealth of knowledge. After a while, it's gonna cause toxicity issues.
Yeah.
And the thing is that if you drink too much too quick, you'll have a hangover, mm-hmm. i.e. burnout.
Right.
And that's another problem that a lot of business owners go, maybe I'll do that, maybe I won't. And they kind of just bounce back and forth. And it's just one of those things where you just sit there and go, why? Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that I just keep asking myself is, why of all the things in the world would you want to sit there and totally become total toxicity in regards to your business? I mean, the thing is that you're in business because you want to be in business. You think you can do it better.
Yeah.
And the thing is that, and that's like one of the big things is that you bring a corporate culture with MDMC.
Oops. I think you froze, Mark. Okay. Marcus. All right. Well, Mark obviously froze for a minute, but I think the point he's trying to make is that when it comes to company culture, it's I think most business owners have this they let their ego get in the way. And then on top of that, it goes and channels down to the employees. So whenever you end up in this situation, it kind of creates a toxic work environment. So let me see if we can get Mark back on. Actually, no, he just bounced out. But no, I think honestly, company culture, and I've had this situation happen to me before where the company culture was just awful. And I completely was just so unhappy. I would drive home every day and just be just so, I felt like I was drained. And I would just drive home with this massive headache and just be, just think, wow, if I ever get into business, I never want to be that person that, is going to make their employees feel that way. And I think there's a reason why I have a New York crew and I have Mark in the Southwest. And, I have been able to, and hopefully at one point, Mark's back. Hopefully at one point we'll be able to just all meld together. But I think the reason that they all love working with me is because I bring in that type of culture.
Yes, you do.
Did you see that? This is a live show. We got to keep it rolling.
Well, no, because I'm sitting there looking at it going I forgot to switch internet connections. And then I realized I went, oh. Yeah. Luckily, all I had to do is just reach the device and hit it on.
But continue about your company culture. I don't know what point you were trying to make. I just tried to pick it up from where that fell.
Well, the corporate the thing is the bigger the ego, the worse the corporate culture can be. Mm-hmm. The thing is that it takes big things to bring down big people. I give you an example. Someone who works in our field in New Mexico has been having issues with COVID. Mm-hmm. Basically, she got COVID. She was in the hospital, blah, 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 blah.
Is this someone we've talked about?
No.
Oh, okay.
But the thing is that you read her Facebook post now, and she's very humbled by this experience. And the thing is it takes something as a serious illness to knock a CEO or a business owner off of their game. Yeah. Do you really? And that's just my illustrating point. Keep in mind, this person is really, really nice. Yeah. But and I have no ill will toward her, and thankfully she's back on the mend. But it's one of those things where it makes you think when things like that happen.
Well, I have a great example of that. See, I was working at a company. This is where my mentor and I met, and he nourished my marketing skills and everything. And we were on this. This is the company. I put it in my actual accomplishments list on a still that I was showing people of what the pitch I was working on. I went into this company. It was a $5 million company. I helped grow it to 12 million in 3 years. So the first year it went up to 6. The next year it went up to 8. The final year was at 12. So this company was thriving. And, my mentor and I are just celebrating. We're just like, yes, we're doing all the right things. And we had a really great working relationship. We had an unexpected death of she was the main gatekeeper. She knew everything about the entire business. She was the HR rep. She was the bookkeeper. She was the accounting, the whole bit. She died out of the blue. And all of a sudden, because me and my friend would say, man, if something ever happens to her, this whole company is going under. And it's exactly what happened. She knew how everything worked. She knew every bit of every part of that company. She literally, the entire burden of the company was placed on her. And we kept telling people, hey, we should probably hire some help. Really, Mark? I'm going to continue on with this story because it makes sense. We told, I think we had conversations with other people within the company that we need to hire help for this woman because she knows operations, she knows sales, she knows the accounting, she knows the payroll. Like, that's a lot for one person to carry. And she died. And so the whole company was up in arms. People, construction contracts weren't going out on time. Things were just a mess. And so we started to see a dip. And so me and marketing and my mentor were like, this is bad. Like, we're going to have to figure out, like, we're going to have to counteract how we're responding to the market because of this. And the owner came in and my mentor was the GM, and he says, you're the reason this company is failing. And he's like, excuse me, I just made you $1 million last month. What are you talking about? And he was like, no, you're the reason. This is why. And that caused my mentor to up and leave. He's like, you know what? I'm done. Not even going to do this anymore. I'm done. And after that, the company started to tank. And I was fed up because then the owner was like, you're now him. You got to talk to sales. You got to do. I'm like, I'm going to continue doing what I've been doing, whether he was here or not. Okay. And I remember I think the retirement party was in August. I remember in October, the first week of October, we were going through the motions. We had just done a big meeting. He's like, I want to see you in my office after this. I was like, all right. And I'm thinking promotion, because, I'm doing all this work. He slams the door and says, where the hell is my money? And I said, what are you talking about? He's like, it's the 6th. We usually have $500,000. I was like, are you crazy? It's the first week of October. No, that is not what happened. Usually in the first week of October, we have probably about 2,500.
You mean 25,000? Yeah.
Yeah. And, I'm like, let it sit for a minute. At the end of the month, you should have $1 million. And he's like, this is your fault. And I'm like, it is not my fault. I'm not the one that yelled at the GM and he left. Okay. I have to go over there and now be the sales manager. And I also have to go back in and look at what's happening in operations. So excuse me while I fill in for my mentor's shoes. And the sad part about it was that I actually asked for a raise after that month. And and he's like, I don't see the need to give you more money. I'm like, what are you talking about? Now my workload has increased. And so at this point, this is where he was trying to find things to break me down. I think he tried to find a way to get rid of me because he overheard a conversation. I was talking about the Comic-Con circuit and how I had fun at LA Comic-Con. Then I ended up in his office and he said, you need to grow up. And I'm like, no, I'm going to be an entertainment marketer one day. He's like, you'll never make it. And so,
yeah, you're right.
If I win an award here soon, I'm going to dedicate it in this guy's honor because he's still alive. And I'm going to throw up a double bird.
No, I'd walk into his office, show it to him.
No, you know what happened though? So what? After I left the month after that because I was like, how dare you talk to me like that? And I left that month. They hired a PR person that didn't know anything about marketing. The company tanked, and it was not worth. I think it's probably making like $5 million a month now, or $5 million a year now. They went back down to where it was when I found him, and he sold it. So he sold it for less value than what he was going to do because there was a really big shakeup in the works. But this man's ego, because we worked extremely hard to prove the value of the company, he's like, well, now it's making a ton of money. I'm going to keep it. And we're like, no. We did this so you could sell, so we can show you that it's going to be in great hands. Because I was working with someone who was going to buy it. And right. We're like, we did all this to show you what we are capable of, that your investment is in good hands and that It's good. And he's like, oh, no. I want to keep it. We're going to keep doing this. And we're just like, fudge.
Right. So, and that's the bit. And that is really the biggest thing is that a lot of people, it goes back to when to say when.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that guy kept drinking from the Kool-Aid.
Oh, he poisoned his entire company. That's why he ended up selling it. He sold it to somebody else. But the thing is he still has his son and his daughter-in-law I think his daughter-in-law is now the GM and his son still works there. So I don't know how he convinced the owner to let that happen, but whatever.
Yeah, I would have been like, yeah, go. Because it's just not worth it. No. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because the thing is you need to know, the strength. It's kind of like a SWOT analysis.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
Weaknesses.
strengths, weaknesses.
What's the O stand for?
A.
Or A? What's the A stand for?
God darn it. Now you're making me look it up.
SWOT analysis. It's an O. It's not an A.
I thought it was
opportunities and
threats.
Threats. There you go. I had to do these a lot. I thought I could name them off the top of my head. SWOT analysis. I did this for a company. And basically strength, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Okay.
Yep. Well, and that's the biggest thing, though, is that when you're looking at your employees' culture, you have to look at it from that same perspective, because you're utilizing their strengths, you're working with their weaknesses. Mm-hmm. You see the opportunities from the weaknesses, and then hopefully they become a threat.
Yeah,
but not to you. To an extra. Go ahead.
I want to do a little shout out. We have Jennifer Robinson in the house, owner of JP Fashion. What is up, girl? Just keep doing what you're doing, and it proves that you are so much better than you get credit for. Thank you. I totally agree. And she said opportunity. She's helping us out with the SWOT. We know it. We just haven't done one in a while.
Yeah, it tells you how long it's been.
Been a while. I have not done a SWOT analysis. I think I did one when my mentor started his own marketing firm. Right. And he's like, come and work with me. I was like, what are you paying? He's like, it's a startup. And I was like, oh. And I was working a full-time job, and then at night I would work on his marketing agency. And we had a couple of he had a brilliant idea. I don't feel like doing it. I could have totally kept doing it, but he was finding businesses in China that wanted to break into the U.S. market. So I was doing analysis on Chinese businesses and creating the SWOT analysis. And then I would send it back to them. I'm like, here's what we're going to do. And we had like 5 clients. We were making content. I had interns left and right. It was crazy. It was good though. And I did all that for free. I got one check.
Yeah.
He gave me one check and I needed it to go to Lexington Comic-Con. I was like, hey, can you throw me $1,000? He's like, yeah, I'll throw you $1,000. That's fine. And so, because I was working around the clock, but that's what I mean. It's like, I would do my 9 to 5. I would come home and work on the side hustle. And so the side hustle was my mentor's marketing agency and my own.
Yeah. It basically it kind of morphed in a sense.
It kind of did. I just don't have the urge to go and visit China and do what he was doing, because he was traveling all over China finding businesses. He was finding people on LinkedIn. That's how his business grew.
We'll have to do another one on that one too.
Yeah, we have so many other things, but I think we should end it here.
Yeah, we've got enough content to choke. We're going to have enough content to choke a horse. So what are we talking next week?
So next week, and like I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, we are going to start bringing in some guests in. We really wanted to establish business building and beyond first. I wanted to make sure we solidified Mark and I as experts in our fields, because I think we are. And I wanted to build this up enough to where we could eventually bring people in as guests. And so we will be having Brendan Brazier of 1DR Productions as our guest next week. I know that Mark is itching to meet him. And so Brendan hit me up this morning. He's like, I can't make it today. I said, you're not on today. You're on next week. He's like, oh, cool. So we're going to talk to him. He was a dancer. He actually danced for Michael Jackson. He's a background dancer. He has worked in, he's a professional dancer, has worked for many celebrities over the years. He was in this amazing Best Buy commercial I remember watching when I lived, I think it was in New Mexico when I saw this commercial. He worked at Warner Brothers. He now works at Masterclass. And he also creates documentaries on the One DR Production YouTube channel. So, which I'm in. I'm in Protectors of the Power episode 1. So you can go check that out. But we're going to talk to him and see kind of what his path was that led him to this point. He started his own production company. And we're working on a project right now called the Back to Action Project, which is a script that was actually pitched with the help of the original 5 Rangers, 5 Rangers minus Twee, because Twee had since passed then. But he was working with all the original Rangers to do this reunion episode, and it got to Saban, and Saban didn't want it. And then when I met him, I was like, we got to get this to Hasbro. And I was working with him to try and get it there, and we got scheduled for a final meeting, and Hasbro just cut it off. So we're going to talk about the Back to Action project. So and we'll be having other guests throughout the month. I'm already trying to set up a calendar. I've reached out to a few people. But if you are an entrepreneur and you want to be on our show, let us know. Drop us a message. Tell us what you're in business for. And we might.
Basically, it's your opportunity to have a shameless plug.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be, and like I said, the development is also meeting with New York entrepreneurs right now. Like I mentioned before, the Facts of Life podcast, they're itching to make a name for themselves as well. I think their content's pretty good. I didn't know anything about it until I was told about it. So I've been listening. I've been trying to listen to all the episodes. Mm-hmm. It's a lot, but definitely support young, thriving businesses. I think the biggest thing you can do for any small business,
especially in this economy,
and especially for us, go like, share, subscribe, leave comments, tell us what you think. And
tell us if we're complete schmucks.
Sure. This show will eventually be developing into that as well. So we'll do a week where we bring on a guest, and another week we'll talk about what we usually talk about, because I think we're entertaining. I think we bring value to. I
hope so. I think we do. But yeah, I mean, and that's the one big thing that I think a lot of people just don't. They need that inspiration, especially now.
You know what's crazy though? When I went through the worst time in my life, I was here trying to just kick back and really try to punch walls. And I didn't know. I got a message from somebody after I thought I succeeded, and then and then I ended up going into business for myself. But you never know who's watching, and you never know who you're inspiring. Because I would get messages and be like, "Oh, it's because of you I saw this, and because of you I'm pushing forward." I'm like, "That was so sweet." So hopefully we're inspiring somebody.
And I think, and the fun thing is, I think we are, and it's just a matter of, finding those people who find us on YouTube, actually staying and actually watching us and kind of going like, okay, who are these two goofy people? We
love what we do. I have a passion for what I do, and
right. And that's exactly right. I mean, the thing is that we're here to make others look better.
For sure. I want to shake some of you people that are doing wrong things, because I'm like, you can do so much better. I do that to Mark every day.
And I take it a lot.
I told him the other day, I said, I just want to smack you. What the hell? Like Lewis smacked me in the car.
Well, what was my response to you on that?
You said, I'll jump on a plane to go get smacked. I was like, wow. All right. But you'll probably just jump in the car.
Well, no, I jump on a plane. I don't know if I could find a flight out of here.
I'm so ready to leave, but leave travel, not the show, but we got to leave the show too.
All right. So what do we got for next week?
So we got Brendan Brazier coming in. He's a new guest. He's going to be a guest on our show. Hopefully.
Excellent. We'll be talking.
If there's a cancellation, we'll swap it out with something else. But
we'll figure it out
for next week.
All righty then. So remember to like, subscribe. The little buttons down here. And give us that thumbs up, and then we'll see you later.
Bye. Have a good one, guys.
See ya.